If you thought Holden and HSV were finished with V8 utes in Australia, technically you'd be wrong, because these days you can walk into a dealership, put your money down on one of these. This is a Chevy Silverado. What I've got here is the 2500 in a sports edition, and that's about $140,000. Of course, what this Silverado is all about is what's under the bonnet, and that's 6.6 litres of turbo diesel V8, 330 kilowatts and 1,234 Newton meters. Outrageous. With a driveline like that, this could well be the best tow rig in Australia that money could buy. But does it stack up? We've got a JB Milano Caravan over here, a pretty big one too, so that's going to be a good unit to give this thing a thorough tow test. Now up in the Hunter Valley here, there's some good little roads around the place, some nice hills, twisty climbs, little back roads and that sort of thing, so that'll be a good test for this Silverado. So let's go hit the road. Although it would be easy to talk about that 6.6 litre Duramax for days under the bonnet, it's got torque for days. There is a lot of other things going on with this car that make it a really good tow rig. And one of them is just the general comfort. I mean, this is a really nicely laid out, nicely spec'd vehicle, and of course you'd want it to be for $140,000. But think of it like, say, a top spec Holden Colorado. It's kind of similar to that. There's actually very similar touch points everywhere, but it does have a bit more than that too. The seats have nice lumbar control. There's a lot of tilt and reach adjustment in the steering wheel, which is really good for dialing yourself up. But definitely the icing on the cake is the adjustable foot pedals. They actually move in and out, so you can really dial yourself in to a really nice position for those long haul drives, which is what this car is really made for at the end of the day. It's also quite refined overall. I mean, it's pretty much just a top spec dual cab ute on steroids. It steers okay. I mean, it's a big truck, it's never going to turn in anywhere. But that long wheelbase means it tows really nicely and it rides fairly well too. So the guys from JB Caravans loaned me this Milano for the day. I think it's 25 foot 6 inches or something like that. It's a very big van and it's loaded with a lot of tech. It's a really top end looking thing. And it's got a bit of weight about it. It's about 3.5 tonne as it sits there, and it'll go up to 4 tonne. So you do want a pretty decent sized tow rig to drag it around. And I mean, it's kind of not a surprise, but this thing tows it really nicely. Aside from having all of that power, I mean, you don't really want more power and torque than this thing. This car accelerates faster than my personal car, even with the van on the back. It's quite amazing. And the way it develops that torque is exactly what you want for a tow vehicle. The car never gets over 2,000 RPM. And it just hums along at 1500, going up a hill with this big van on the back. You'll just feel it start to sort of dip into its resources a little bit, but you know it's just got so much more to give and it's so relaxed, and it makes you really confident to drive a big van on little narrow roads like this. It's a bit of a doddle. There's quite a bit of technology in this car too, which is quite nice to have. Obviously you'd want it for the money. It's got lane departure warning and pre-collision warning, which is nice. It actually, the seats vibrate on the side of the lane in which you're veering to, and when you've got a big van like this and you're trying to use all of the road you've got, it is a really nice feature to have. But the big features and the most important features is the tow mode. You press this button here and it goes into tow haul mode. It actually tunes the car in terms of its stability and dynamics and traction control systems to suit towing, which is absolutely awesome. There's an integrated brake controller right here, easy for you to use and grab. You can dial it up and down, no worries in the world. And it has an exhaust brake and it works and it's awesome. It actually is really good when you're on this tow mode and you put the exhaust brake on. It'll sense, if you're coming up to a pretty steep hill and you start going down and gather speed, it'll drop a gear back, get up to about 2,000 RPM, and that exhaust brake will come on, and it's really good at just holding your speed really nicely. You'd also be pretty surprised, I think, in terms of how easy this car is to drive overall. You look at it and it looks like RoboCop and a block of flats mixed together. It's absolutely huge and daunting to look at. But you jump in, you got your gear selector here, whack it in drive, foot brake, hand brake, off you go. It's actually pretty easy.